if the price appreciation of XRP is correlated to the settlement of the case, or the end of the case, it is a security of Ripple. It would in fact be a security of Ripple. And that's why every time you've seen any price appreciation on XRP, it's been tamped down off of news from the case, because it can't be correlated to news from the case. It can't be correlated to Ripple. Otherwise, it is a security of Ripple. You need aspects in utility and other supply demand dynamics outside of Ripple and their use case for it to drive the price higher. So I do not think that the price appreciation of XRP will be correlated with the settlement of the Ripple case for those reasons. So it needs to be driven by these ETFs or market dynamics or global macroeconomic events or the use on exchanges for settlement and liquidity purposes. It has to be something outside of what Ripple does or something that happens. And then that could cause the case to settle, or the case could settle independently of the price appreciation for XRP in a reasonable time frame around it. But I think the price will happen before the case settles. And that's really the only way that it doesn't look like a security of Ripple.
What if I told you that Ripple's epic court victory just unleashed a tidal wave of clarity? And in the next few hours, XRP could rocket past $100, turning everyday holders into dollar millionaires. Imagine waking up tomorrow to find your XRP stash worth 7 figures, all because a single judge refused to let shortcuts override the rule of law. That's exactly what happened when Judge Annalisa Torres threw out Ripple and the SEC's joint motion to slash Ripple's penalty and lift the XRP sales ban. Suddenly, after nearly 5 years of courtroom drama, XRP isn't just surviving, it's the only crypto with ironclad legal clarity in the US. So what really went down in that New York courtroom? Why does it matter for every Ripple holder, from your tech-savvy friend to your grandma's dabbling in crypto? And how could this twist turn a decade-old underdog into the backbone of global settlements? Stick around to find out.
Everyone's talking about Bitcoin and Ethereum, but XRP is quietly changing the game. While meme coins chase hype, XRP is solving real-world problems, moving money across borders in seconds, not days. Banks, businesses, and financial networks are already using it today. Ripple's technology is partnered with over 300 financial institutions, including giants like Santander and SBI Holdings. XRP settles transactions in just 3 to 5 seconds. Faster, cheaper, and greener than almost anything out there. And here's what most people miss. Ripple's network is built to comply with ISO 2022, the new global banking standard. That means XRP is perfectly positioned for the next evolution of international finance. While others are distracted, XRP is building the rails.
Let's rewind to December 2020, when the SEC blindsided Ripple with allegations of an unregistered securities offering. Overnight, the price cratered, confidence wavered, and a legal saga kicked off that would reshape how the world views digital assets. Slowly but surely, Ripple chipped away at the SEC's case. First, by proving that XRP isn't a security when traded on open markets. Then, by showing that retail investors weren't left in the dark. Still, restrictions stayed in place, and legal fees piled up. That's when whispers started. What if the whole lawsuit was political theater? XRP boosters like Edo Farina even speculated that the outcome was pre-decided, that backroom deals masked as litigation were really the show. Was Ripple secretly meeting with the SEC back in 2018, laying groundwork nobody knew about? Those suspicions fueled a frenzy, especially after King XRP tweeted about a supposed US approval of a Ripple settlement. In reality, what happened last month was far more dramatic. In mid-May, Ripple and the SEC filed a joint request to cut Ripple's civil penalty from $125 million to $50 million and to end the sales injunction. On paper, it read like the perfect ending to this 5-year saga, but Judge Torres saw it differently. She ruled the motion procedurally improper and made it crystal clear mutual consent isn't enough. Under Rule 62 of the Federal Rules of Civil Procedure, you need a solid, rule-based justification, and private agreements don't meet the bar. Legal analyst James Filan emphasized that the judge would have denied the motion even if jurisdiction had been restored, and journalist Eleanor Terrett echoed that the court now demands more than handshake deals. Attorney John Dion put it bluntly: the integrity of the judicial system must be preserved after years of federal litigation. No shortcuts, no bypasses.
The war between XRP and the SEC started in 2020, and it changed crypto forever. Ripple was accused of selling XRP as an unregistered security, shaking the entire market. Overnight, XRP was delisted from top exchanges and its price crashed, but the community never gave up. Fast forward to today, and XRP is fighting back hard, with major legal wins, institutional support, and ETF buzz growing daily. This was never just about XRP. It's about the future of crypto regulation.
Here's why that matters. Regulatory clarity. In the murky world of crypto, clarity is gold. Bitcoin and Ethereum still dance around gray areas, waiting on SEC guidance that never fully comes. But XRP, with this ruling, it stands legally distinct. An SEC commissioner reportedly called XRP the only crypto with true regulatory clarity. And if that endorsement holds water, it could open floodgates. Institutional adoption would skyrocket. Governments would sit up and take notice, and global financial institutions might finally integrate XRP into their cross-border rails. Remember, Swift's own website hints at Wells Fargo experimenting with Ripple tech. When giants like Wells Fargo dip their toes, it's not a casual test. It's a sign of seismic shifts in banking infrastructure. Instead of waiting days for settlements and paying hefty fees, banks could use Ripple's ledger for near-instant penny-cheap transfers. That's the dream Ripple has chased since day one, and now that the SEC roadblock has lessened, the path forward looks clearer. Experts say the price of XRP might soar to $100 in mere hours, fueled by both regulatory victory and institutional demand. At today's rates, a 4,400% jump is no small feat. But when you consider what's at stake, it suddenly feels within reach. Crypto voices like Amex are already declaring XRP the next Bitcoin, forecasting massive wealth transfers. President Trump even predicted a stock market rally that some say will mirror crypto's ascent. But hype alone can't drive sustainable gain.
But I think that I want the industry to have clarity first before anything else. I think that that's the most important thing, because we get that and it's a massive win for the industry. It's a massive stamp of clarity for the industry, where now we don't have to worry about that piece anymore. We don't have to worry about, all right, what's going to happen if all of a sudden there's a complete change of sentiment from the administration and now all of a sudden they start going after crypto companies again. I don't think that's going to be the case, but having regulatory clarity there is going to be the missing piece of the puzzle. Again, I'm excited about all the other things, but I can't stress enough the fact that I think the regulatory piece of it.
That's where prudent strategy comes in. Armando Pantoja, a veteran investor since 2011, warns that sudden wealth can be as perilous as thrilling. Holding 10,000 XRP tokens could make you a millionaire overnight, but without a plan, you risk blowing it all. Pantoja's mantra: define your freedom number, the annual income to sustain your lifestyle, and double it. Preserve your principal, build income streams, and map out an exit strategy before prices go parabolic. It's not about luxury, it's about security. That disciplined mindset could be the difference between fleeting windfalls and generational wealth. Meanwhile, whale activity tells its own story. Whale Alert flagged a $300 million wave of XRP transfers. 29.57 million XRP moved to Coinbase, usually a bearish sell signal, and 94.3 million XRP shifted between unknown wallets, signaling long-term accumulation. The number of addresses holding at least 10,000 XRP jumped from 281,000 to 300,000, suggesting serious new entrants and growing confidence among big players. When whales place bets this size, they're not chasing memes, they're positioning for major moves. Combine that with Ripple's court wins, evolving global partnerships, and mounting regulatory clarity, and you've got a recipe for liftoff.
There's a lot of people out there saying XRP could never get to $10,000, and there's other people out there that's saying it could. I'm not going to get into those fights, but I just want to show how mathematically and technically XRP could possibly pass $10,000. First of all, we know that XRP is one of the few tokens or coins out there that's a perfect fit for the banking system internationally. So let's talk about the Swift banking system. Swift handles about 1.2 quadrillion transactions a year, which comes out to about 5 trillion a day. If we take the total supply of XRP, which is about 100 billion, we divide that into the annual amount that Swift handles, that's about $12,000 per XRP. Now, we already got a lot of rumors that say a lot of big banks, institutions, and very wealthy people are holding XRP waiting for this to happen. And a lot of XRP is held by retail investors, and a lot is locked in liquidity pools. So if we just assume that 10 to 20% is available, this price is actually a lot higher. It could be 30, 40, 50,000. Now, I'm not saying or speculating that's where it's going to go, but I just want to show that it's technically possible for XRP to reach over to.
Looking ahead, major financial institutions are reportedly lining up behind Ripple's tech. Fresh intel suggests government-level integrations are whisper quiet but very real. If dozens of banks start routing transactions through Ripple's ledger, XRP demand will explode, not from speculation, but from utility. A token that powers real-world payments, settlement rails, and liquidity provisioning could reshape the global financial landscape. landscape. And in that world, XRP wouldn't just be another crypto, it would be the backbone of a multi-trillion-dollar transformation. So here we are at a crossroads. After a half-decade of courtroom battles, procedural hurdles, and hush-hush negotiations, XRP stands poised to claim regulatory clarity no other crypto can match. The SEC's refusal to greenlight shortcuts may have been the catalyst Ripple needed. Institutional whispers grow louder, whale wallets fatten, and vocal analysts paint a picture of an imminent breakout, potentially to $100 and beyond. Whether that happens in hours or months, the foundation is laid. Ripple's victory isn't just about winning a lawsuit. It's about legitimizing an entire asset class and breaking into the heart of global finance.
So basically, the technology that we're creating for the digital Lari is a private blockchain, but it's based on the technology used in the public blockchain. So the public blockchain that we use is called the XRP ledger. It's a publicly available open source blockchain technology. And what we do for each country we're working with, we create a new private version. So you can only use the blockchain if you are permissioned to do so. So the advantage of that is the XRP ledger technology is proven. It has been processing billions of transactions. But central banks like to have things a little bit more private. So we have created a private version.
So banks are already using XRP's private ledger, and as crypto and Ripple's adoption continues to flourish and grow, soon XRP's price will skyrocket as the private ledger is meant to reflect the same price as the public ledger.
Ripple's journey to become the go-to settlement asset didn't happen overnight. Behind every courtroom victory and every glimmer of partnership lies years of painstaking development and strategic positioning. Early on, Ripple's founders recognized that blockchain technology alone wasn't the magic bullet. You could build a decentralized ledger, but unless it's seamlessly plugged into the existing financial plumbing, it would never break through. So while Bitcoin and Ethereum were busy solving decentralization at the expense of speed and cost, Ripple quietly engineered its consensus protocol to deliver real-world performance, near-instant finality, sub-cent transaction fees, and the ability to handle thousands of transactions per second. That combination was designed from day one to solve cross-border pain points, slow settlement times, opaque messaging, and ballooning intermediary fees. Contrast that with the traditional correspondent banking model, where a payment might pass through multiple banks, multiple ledgers, and multiple time zones before final settlement. Each link in that chain adds complexity, cost, and risk. By offering a single, unified ledger that could interoperate with any currency and any payment system, Ripple set the stage for a future where money moves as fluidly as data. Now, imagine that vision coming to life under the legal clarity bestowed by Judge Torres's ruling. Suddenly, financial institutions gain confidence that XRP isn't a regulatory landmine. They can pilot, even roll out, Ripple's on-demand liquidity, ODL service, without second-guessing whether a future enforcement action might sweep it all away.
May is where everything starts to wrap up, where everything needs to be digitized. Ripple is one of the few companies with the infrastructure to support this kind of modernization. RippleNet enables real-time cross-border payments. RS, their stablecoin, can facilitate instant treasury distributions. XRP is a bridge asset that eliminates friction and pre-funded accounts. Ripple's tech stack integrates easily with government and banking systems like that. It's fully compliant and ready for KYC, anti-money laundering, know your customer, anti-money laundering enforcement, and already trusted by hundreds of financial institutions worldwide. Like, think about that.
Let's talk about ODL for a moment, because it's the real bridge between theory and practice. In the old system, to send pesos from the US to Mexico, a bank would hold a massive peso float in a correspondent bank in Mexico, capital that sits idle but is necessary for liquidity. With ODL, Ripple pre-funds a pool of XRP on both ends. When you want to send pesos, you buy XRP in the US, send it over the ledger, and sell it for pesos in Mexico, all in a matter of seconds. No floats, no pre-funding headaches, and no multi-day settlement windows. For corporates and banks, that can translate to hundreds of millions saved in capital costs and operational overhead every year. Large institutions have taken note. Brazil's Santander has run pilots showing ODL can cut 40–70% off remittance fees. MoneyGram, despite its battles with the SEC, reported measurable cost savings and faster transactions during its partnership trials with Ripple. And even Swift, the messaging giant whose raison d'etre has always been connecting banks, has signaled openness to blockchain interoperability interoperability. Their statement that fiat and crypto can coexist on the same rails underscores a growing consensus. Hybrid systems are the future. When you layer legal certainty on top of that, the incentive to adopt Ripple's solution becomes overwhelming.
Integrating digital asset solutions is complex. It often requires cumbersome integrations, has high costs, and involves engaging with fragmented, slow, and costly fiat payout landscape. At Ripple, we built Liquidity Hub to seamlessly bridge the new world of digital assets with the traditional world of fiat. The experience is plug and play, encompassing a single API connection into a breadth of liquidity pools. It offers optimized pricing via smart order routing, and through Ripple's suite of products, best-in-class last-mile fiat payouts into global jurisdictions will be available. Liquidity Hub powers interoperability between crypto and fiat systems, bridging digital assets seamlessly. Partner with Ripple for your crypto liquidity needs today.
But let's not overlook the global geopolitical dimension. Cross-border payments aren't just a technical challenge. They're entwined with sanctions, foreign exchange volatility, and regulatory divergence. Ripple's underlying infrastructure doesn't care whether it's sending dollars, euros, yen, or naira. It simply moves value. If government bodies in emerging markets see that XRP-settled transactions bypass costly intermediaries while maintaining full compliance through on-chain transparency, you can bet they will explore regulatory frameworks to encourage rather than hinder its use. Imagine central banks in Asia or Africa offering pilot programs that integrate XRP for intra-bank settlements. Suddenly, mass adoption isn't a pipe dream, it's a strategic goal. On the flip side, regulatory agencies in the US and Europe are watching closely. They recognize that standing in the way of cost-saving, efficiency-boosting technology could disadvantage domestic banks in the global competition. Ripple's legal clarity, therefore, isn't just a boon for XRP, it's a wake-up call for regulators worldwide to modernize frameworks. In Japan, the Financial Services Agency has long taken a proactive stance on crypto, and Ripple already has licensing there. South Korea's Financial Supervisory Service is rumored to be drafting new rules to accommodate blockchain settlement. Once a handful of leading economies formally embrace Ripple's rails, others will follow, driven by the imperative to remain competitive in global trade.
You are doing for money what email did for communication. Do you think this is really going to take off to that?
We do. When we look at the world, you see a world completely connected on an information web. And that's terrific. That makes things tremendously efficient. But what we don't have is the sense of a value web. Payments, the exchange of value is still pre-internet based on 40-year-old technology. And so that's very expensive. That really slows e-commerce. Lots of parts of the world don't have the ability to make payments. So this new technology that really is a second gen of Bitcoin enables now value to be exchanged in the same way that information is currently exchanged. And that's a big deal. You actually don't need to adopt a new virtual currency to use Ripple. You can use it with dollars, euro, yuan, real, anything you like. You have a math-based currency built into Ripple that is like Bitcoin, but it really functions as an enabler. So we think most people will use Ripple using their existing things of value.
Ripple's story is not simply one of courtroom drama or price speculation. It's a blueprint for how blockchain can reshape global finance when built with purpose and clarity. Judge Torres's refusal to greenlight procedural shortcuts didn't slow XRP down. It fortified its legal foundation, setting the stage for institutional embrace and operational growth. What do you think? Is XRP the next backbone of global finance, or just another crypto caught up in hype? Drop your thoughts below, hit subscribe, and join the conversation, because this story is just getting started.